The African Continental Free Trade Agreement, Area Agreement, as well as the African Union's agenda on silencing the guns will take center stage at the AU Heads of State and Government sessions this weekend. The 13th and 14th extraordinary sessions will take place virtually and is presided over by AU Chair President Ramaphosa. It has started. Let's take you there now live.
We are together, much as we are virtually attending this summit, and I really, truly welcome you. I now want to ask that we check whether we do have a quorum from the Acting Secretary General.
Excellency, good afternoon. I confirm we do have a quorum.
Wonderful. I now, as we commence, hand over to the AUC Chief of Protocol, direct the order of proceedings of the opening ceremony.
Je vous remercie, Monsieur le Président. Excellences, Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Excellences, Monsieur Moussa Faki Mahamat, Président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Excellences, Monsieur le Vice-président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les commissaires, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les secrétaires des communautés économiques régionales, Excellences, Monsieur le Président de la Banque africaine de développement, Excellences, Monsieur le Président de Afrexim Bank, distingués invités, nous nous réunissons ce jour pour la 13e session extraordinaire de la conférence de l'Union consacrée à la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine. Pour la cérémonie d'ouverture, nous entendrons successivement le président de l'Union en exercice de l'Union africaine, son Excellence Cyril Ramaphosa, suivi de son Excellence Moussa Faki Mahamat, président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, et enfin de Monsieur Wamkele, le secrétaire général de la ZLECAF. Pour le départ, je voudrais demander à mes collègues de la régie de bien vouloir nous conduire pour l'exécution de l'hymne continental. Je vous remercie.
Zimba, não tens uma cópia mais na intervenção?
Thank you. We will now proceed with the opening statements and remarks. Your Majesties, Your Excellencies, Heads of States and Government, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the AU Commission, Your Excellencies, members of the Executive Council, Wamkele Mene, the Secretary General of the AFC FTA Secretariat, heads of AU organs, heads of regional economic communities, Deputy Chairperson, and commissioners of the African Union Commission, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to welcome you all to this, the 13th extraordinary session of the Assembly of the Heads of State and Government of the Union, African Union. But let me start off on a very happy, welcoming note by welcoming the newly elected presidents to be welcomed and acknowledged by all of us. President Evariste Ndayishimiye of Burundi, President Ba Ndao of Mali, President Lazarus Chakwera of Malawi, President Wavel Ramkalawan of the Seychelles. We welcome you to this extraordinary session. Today we stand on the cusp of a new era in the progress of our beautiful continent. The moment that we've all been working painstakingly towards has finally arrived. With just 4 weeks to go before the AFC FTA commences trading on the 1st of January 2021, we are here to consider the adoption of the legal instruments that will facilitate its operationalization. We are all filled with a great sense of pride at how far we have come to reach this moment. We recall the collective journey we embarked upon just over 4 decades ago with the adoption of the Monrovia Strategy in 1979, followed by the Lagos Plan of Action in 1980 and the Abuja Treaty in 1991. We recall with a sense of achievement the subsequent decisions and declarations adopted at our previous summits relating to the economic development and integration of the African continent. And now, we are about to witness the realization of one of the flagship projects of Agenda 2063. Throughout this process, we have stood united with 55 sovereign AU member states rallying together despite different levels of economic development and diverse strategic priorities. The commencement of trading under the AFC FTA on the 1st of January 2021 is one of the most significant milestones in the continental integration project. It will be the clearest affirmation yet that Africa is determined to take charge of its own destiny and that its success and development is fundamentally tied to harnessing the potential and energies of her citizens. We already witnessed history in the making when the first ever Secretary General of the AFC FTA Secretariat was installed on the 19th of September 2020 in Accra, in Ghana. We commend His Excellency President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and the people of Ghana for their part in fulfilling the African dream. We also congratulate Mr. Wamkele Mene, the Secretary General of the AFCTA Secretariat, and wish him success for the work that lies ahead. Our treaty will boost intra-African trade. It will promote industrialization and competitiveness and contribute to job creation, and it will unleash regional value chains that will facilitate Africa's meaningful integration into the global economy. The treaty will also improve the prospects of Africa as an attractive investment destination. In the context of global developments on trade, including threats to multilateral system, the treaty is more critical than ever. We must use this, our treaty, to advance the empowerment of Africa's women, one of the most important objectives of Agenda 2063. Improving African women's access to trade opportunities not only facilitates economic freedom for women, but also expands the productive capacity of countries. The AFCFTA must facilitate greater trade opportunities for women and focus on removing non-tariff barriers to trade. To support this, we must strengthen women's participation in the continental economy by ensuring there is greater public procurement that is earmarked for women-owned businesses. We must ensure that there is sufficient support given to women-owned small-medium enterprises and cooperatives in both local and regional economies. Your Excellencies, most importantly, we should consider an AU protocol on women in trade to give effect to our intentions. This, our treaty, presents immense opportunities for the private sector in Africa and will be a catalyst for the development and expansion of private enterprise on our continent. We call on the private sector to be our partners in this journey and provide support to this continental effort through the development of human and financial resources and investment in areas such as infrastructure and technology. Before I conclude, let me acknowledge and appreciate the critical role played by the heads of state and government and for their continued support towards the realization of this flagship project. We express our appreciation to His Excellency, President Issoufou Mahamadou, the President of the Republic of Niger, and the champion of the AFCTA for his excellent work and the dedicated leadership that he has demonstrated throughout the negotiation process of the treaty since March 2016 to date. We further extend our gratitude to the chairperson of the AU Commission, His Excellency Moussa Faki Mahamat, all the commissioners as well, and the staff of the AU Commission for their tireless effort and dedication, as well as the technical support from partners such as the UN Economic Commission for Africa. The treaty is the great edifice that holds our collective dreams and aspirations for an integrated and prosperous continent. It has been us, the nations of Africa, who labored and toiled to lay the weighty cornerstone, who dug the foundations and erected the scaffolding. And it has been you, Your Excellencies, who have been the engineers who have kept a watchful eye to ensure that as the building grows upwards and sideways, that it remains firm. There's no doubt that the AFCFTA will endure because it is built upon the strongest of foundations, the unity of all our African nations. May it continue to be strengthened. May it also weather the elements, and may it forever hold. I now declare this 13th extraordinary session of the Assembly of the Heads of State and Government of the African Union on the African Continental Free Trade Area officially open. And in this regard, I thank you. And that is how we then proceed to ask the next speaker to then make their opening statement. Thank you very much.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. Je voudrais rappeler que le prochain orateur, c'est Son Excellence Monsieur Moussa Faki Mahamat, président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, que je voudrais respectueusement inviter pour son allocution.
Excellence, Monsieur Cyril Ramaphosa, président de l'Afrique du Sud, président de l'Union africaine. Excellence Mahamadou Issoufou, président de la République du Niger, champion de la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine. Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État et de gouvernement, Mesdames et Messieurs les membres de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Monsieur le secrétaire général de la zone de libre-échange continentale, Monsieur le président de la Banque africaine du développement, Monsieur le président de Afrique-Bank, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs exécutifs de communautés économiques régionales, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs des organes de l'Union africaine, chers partenaires, Mesdames et Messieurs, c'est pour moi une joie immense d'assister à ce sommet extraordinaire consacré à l'examen des préparatifs pour le démarrage effectif au 1er janvier 2021 des échanges commerciaux dans le cadre de l'un de nos projets phares, la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine. Je voudrais exprimer notre gratitude au gouvernement d'Afrique du Sud qui avait pris toutes les dispositions utiles pour la tenue physique de cette session extraordinaire. Hélas, la COVID-19 nous contraint à cette rencontre virtuelle, ce qui ne diminue en rien toute l'attention que nous accorderons au traitement des dossiers qui nous seront soumis. Je voudrais également rendre un vibrant hommage au président Mahamadou Issoufou, président de la République du Niger, champion de la ZLECAF, qui a conduit avec une grande passion le processus ayant abouti à la mise en place de cet important projet. Avec l'énergie et la passion qui les caractérisent, il nous présentera son rapport dont les riches et pertinentes recommandations qu'il contient nous permettront de réaffirmer qu'au 1er janvier 2021, l'Afrique est prête à s'engager dans la direction du commerce préférentiel à l'échelle du continent. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, nous réalisons un vieux rêve des pères fondateurs de l'OUA qui portait sur la création des marchés communs africains. De 1963 à ce jour, la maturation puis la gestation ont été longues en raison de toutes les contraintes politiques, économiques et naturelles, à l'instar de la COVID-19 auquel l'Afrique a fait face. Mais la gestation a eu finalement lieu dans le bonheur, comme celui que l'on ressent à l'arrivée d'un enfant longtemps attendu. Plusieurs étapes ont jalonné la vie de ce projet, dont la plus décisive est la signature en 1991 du traité instituant la communauté économique africaine. Cependant, l'élan déterminant a été donné en mars 2018 à Kigali au Rwanda, au cours de la session extraordinaire de la conférence qui a ouvert à la signature l'accord établissant la zone de libre-échange continentale africaine. 44 pays ont signé ce jour le dit accord. Et aujourd'hui, nous sommes à 34 ratifications avec dépôt des instruments, ce qui est un chiffre record dans les annales de l'Union, qui marque la détermination des États à franchir une étape supplémentaire sur la voie de l'intégration économique continentale. En ouvrant le marché convenu le 1er janvier 2021, nous allons vivre une nouvelle expérience d'intégration économique de l'ensemble des États membres de notre Union.
All right, you are listening to a statement by the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mahamat, President Ramaphosa. You heard him earlier on, presiding over key African Union deliberations in his capacity as the chairperson of the African Union. This is the opening ceremony. He is presiding over the 13th and 14th extraordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government of the African Union today and tomorrow. And leaders are deliberating on the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement and the AU's commitment on silencing the guns, which, as you know, refers to the ending of all forms of conflict, from interpersonal violence and abuse of intra or interstate conflict, as they call it, as a prerequisite for security, development and growth. We're told that Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Dr. Naledi Pandor, will lead the South African delegation, which will include the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition, Mr. Ibrahim Patel. You did see that due to COVID-19, this meeting is being held virtually. The 13th extraordinary session of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement Summit on today is expected to adopt the Johannesburg Declaration and an AU summit decision, which will provide the legal basis for the commencement of trading under the Free Trade Agreement on the 1st of January 2021. Let's bring in now our foreign editor, Sophie Mokoena, to break this down for us and get a sense of how historic this is. Sophie, welcome to the agenda. Give us a sense of how important such a meeting is.
Well, the meeting is quite important, as you heard earlier on President Ramaphosa talking about the road we have traveled as the continent to arrive at this historic moment. You know that our forebears who launched the Organization of African Unity, the intention was to unite the continent to be able to address the challenges of colonialism and to also flush out colonialism and apartheid on the continent. But the critical second leg of this project was to ensure that there is economic boom on the African continent, but also the African continent is able to feed and also to take care of her children, and by doing that you have to really address the issue of trade on the continent. And there were different agreements made and some years ago, as the president has outlined, different meetings, different countries, and finally the Johannesburg summit, where a decision was taken to implement the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. And now today it is quite important because the continent will be able to adopt the legal instruments that will put in motion the AfCFTA. And we know that, as the president pointed out, we now have the secretary at the secretariat. The office is based in Accra, Ghana, our own South African one, who is sitting in that office, and his responsibility is to ensure that this agreement is really implemented on the 1st of January. Now we're counting 4 weeks to that. We are going to hear from him, the secretary of the AfCFTA, immediately after the commission chair has presented his statement in terms of the road we have traveled. But quite an important milestone in the establishment of the African Union. We know it was transformed from the Organization of African Unity to the African Union in Durban. Let's listen at the Secretary of the AFCTA.
The leader and champion of the AFCFTA, Your Excellencies, Heads of States and Government, His Excellency Mr. Musa Faki Mohammed, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Commissioners of the African Union, Excellencies, Ambassadors and representatives to the African Union. It is an honor for me to be able to make this statement to this august assembly from Accra, Ghana, the philosophical and intellectual foundation of Pan-Africanism. In August 2020, the government of Ghana officially handed over the AFCFTA Secretariat building to His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed. In my personal interactions with His Excellency President Akufo-Addo, it is clear that his commitment to the AFCFTA is anchored on a deep sense of duty to advancing the imperatives of Pan-Africanism. I deeply appreciate the support of the government of Ghana, the people of Ghana, in particular, His Excellency President Akufo-Addo, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister Bochwe, Minister of Trade, Minister Allen Cherry-Martin, and indeed the entire government of the Republic of Ghana. His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed and his Chief of Staff, my dear senior brother Abdoulaye Diop, have been a source of much strength for me and continue to support the Secretariat from Addis Ababa. Your Excellencies, Africa is on the cusp of a historic milestone, which started when the AFCFTA was signed in Kigali, Rwanda, in March 2018. As of today, 54 countries have signed the agreement. 34 countries have deposited their instruments of ratification, with the Federal Republic of Nigeria depositing their instrument of ratification this morning. Today, 41 countries and customs unions have submitted their tariff offers, including the East African Community and ECOWAS, who submitted their offers in the last few days. We congratulate all of them. This effort positions the AFCFTA for a truly commercially meaningful start of trading on the 1st of January 2021. None of this remarkable progress would have been achieved without the unwavering leadership and commitment of His Excellency President Mahamadou Issoufou, the champion and leader of the AFCFTA. I also want to salute the Ministers of Trade, the senior trade officials, the chief negotiators, and our experts, our dedicated experts, for the hard work done over the last few months in very, very difficult circumstances. Africa has an over-reliance on the export of primary commodities to traditional markets of the North. In other words, Africa continues to be trapped in a colonial economic model. This requires that we aggressively implement the AFCFTA as one of the tools for effecting a fundamental structural transformation of Africa's economy and placing Africa on a path of long-term industrial development. Your Excellencies, now is the time. Now is the time to take action to dismantle this colonial economic model by accelerating our industrial development objectives. Women in trade, young Africans, small, medium enterprises confront significant challenges when attempting to benefit from trade agreements. In this regard, we shall take up the challenge that His Excellency President Ramaphosa has just presented to us. We shall negotiate a protocol to advance the objectives of women in trade. For the AfCFTA to be inclusive and to ensure shared growth across the continent, women, young Africans, small medium enterprises have to be at the heart of its implementation. In this regard, we shall partner with UNECA, with the UNDP, to ensure that the AfCFTA continues to contribute to the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals, Agenda 2030. We have partnered with the Afro Champions to deploy digitally enabled platforms to connect small medium enterprises, women in trade, and young entrepreneurs to new markets on the African continent. In revitalizing Africa's economy, particularly the services sector, AVRIVA, the Africa CDC Trusted Travel Initiative, is absolutely critical. Your Excellencies, Afreximbank has been a strong strategic partner to the AfCFTA. We are working together on the development of a Pan-African payments and settlement platform, which the Assembly launched last year in Niamey. We're also developing an adjustment facility to help countries that need this adjustment facility as they implement the AfCFTA. And both of these instruments will be critical in supporting the implementation of the AfCFTA. We intend to expand our partnerships with the private sector. We have had very fruitful discussions with Zenith Bank about a trade portal and Standard Bank about the possibility of the establishment of a $1 billion trade finance facility, which will be aimed at primarily small, medium enterprises. We will have to explore the possibility of trade finance, and this trade finance facility being jointly underwritten by governments, African banks, and African multilateral institutions. Let me conclude, Your Excellencies, by observing, as much progress as we have made, integrating 55 markets will not be easy. It will be difficult. It will be a daunting task. It will take resolute determination decade after decade. However, to throw our hands in the air and say the task is too difficult is not an option. A recent study by the World Bank estimates that where implemented effectively, by the year 2035, the AfCFTA has the potential to lift 30 million Africans out of extreme poverty and 70 million Africans out of moderate poverty. As positive as these projections are, they shall not happen by chance. We as Africans will have to take our destiny into our own hands. We will have to take concrete actions to make sure that these positive projections do become a reality. I thank you very much, Your Excellency, the President.
Merci, Monsieur le Secrétaire Général, Son Excellence, Monsieur le Secrétaire Général. Étant arrivé au terme de la cérémonie d'ouverture, je voudrais respectueusement redonner la parole à Son Excellence, Monsieur Cyril Ramaphosa, le président de la séance, donc de l'Union, pour la suite des travaux.
All right, there you go. The statement by the Secretary of the AfCFTA, Mene there, and talking about various issues and the importance of this agreement. I want to bring in Sophie Mokoena, our foreign editor. She's standing by. She's been listening to that address by Mene. Sophie, he did mention that 54 countries have signed on. Nigeria seems to be on board. Talk to us about the temperature of views with regards to this agreement on the continent.
Well, I think Nigeria coming on board is quite a historic moment. And I guess we saw this morning that the Minister of Mining, Gwede Mantashe, was sent by President Ramaphosa to Nigeria as an envoy. Now it makes sense. I think he was there to persuade Nigeria to be on board as the largest economy on the continent. And when you look at a number of countries that have signed up and have deposited the instruments, it speaks to how serious countries are in terms of being on board. But he has indicated that the Secretary that to integrate 55 countries in one trade bloc, it is going to be a difficult task. That is why during the launch of the African Union in Durban, the emphasis was to strengthen the regional bodies. When we have strengthened the regional bodies, it will be much easier to integrate all the regions and come up with this one huge market of 1.2 billion people. And I think it will be a difficult task, but clearly Africa is determined to ensure that now they are able to dismantle the colonial trade rules and regulations that have been prevailing for years, and the structural transformation of Africa's economy must happen. And I think having the leaders that we have currently who are really serious about this issue, we are going to see the results. And when you look at people like the Rwandan President Paul Kagame, he played a very important role during his tenure before President Ramaphosa to push for us to arrive at where we are. Now it's the responsibility of the current chair, President Ramaphosa, to ensure that when he hands over the chairmanship in January next year, he can give a better report. But also I'm very pleased with the situation that women have been put at the center. The president calling for a protocol that will put women at the center of this agreement, or the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. And the secretary, they're saying they are going to work on that as soon as possible. I think it is a huge challenge, but I think no challenge is unsurmountable.
And that's important, is it? The secretary of the AFCFTA saying that now is the time to take action, and women in trade has to be at the heart of this agreement. Apart from the governments of the various countries on the African continent, what are ordinary people saying? What are correspondents telling you in terms of how people are reacting to this agreement?
I think it is the responsibility of all AU member countries to really communicate what this African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is all about. We, as journalists on the continent, covering the continent, we must also create a platform to engage ordinary citizens of the continent, to talk about this agreement, to ask questions so that they can understand, but also to be able to participate in this new move by the continent, because without the citizens of the continent, this will not become a reality, but also business in particular. And I'm happy to hear from the secretary that yesterday, the business summit, many companies on the continent and financial sectors in particular have already made commitments. I mean, this 1 billion that has been set aside for small businesses by a financial institutions such as the Standard Bank of South Africa. This is a step in the right direction, but it is our responsibility, SABC in particular, the largest broadcaster on the continent, having access to 50 African countries. I think we are doing just that now, because we were able to beam this historic moment live to 50 African countries. But with our digital platform, again, we are beaming this historic moment, or communicating this historic moment to millions of Africans in the diaspora around the world, because we have 1 million following on YouTube, and these are the people who will be able to follow the deliberations. Therefore, they will then have to share this information, but also engage on what Africa has done and how they want this milestone to benefit ordinary citizens. The secretary speaking, they're saying in 2035, if this becomes a reality, 55 million Africans on the continent will be out of poverty. It will be such a good thing. 2035, those who will still be there, to be able to say the historic moment has really become a reality, and today we're talking about 55 million Africans out of poverty. But we have a very serious challenge with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. If we are not able to address the COVID-19 pandemic, and we have vaccine, and vaccine is available to all citizens on the continent, will be difficult. It is going to be difficult for member countries of the AU to rebuild their economies, and also to ensure that this agreement becomes a reality.
And it won't be easy, isn't it, Sophie? As you heard from the secretary of the FTA, saying that it won't be an easy task to, I guess, bring everybody together under this agreement, but they must try, and they need to take action now. You're speaking about these vaccines, Sophie. Maybe I can just touch. I know you have the latest with regards to this information coming through. We know about the Moderna vaccine in the United States, Pfizer as well, promising indeed. But what are you hearing with regards to South Africa's stake in getting these vaccines?
Well, I don't know. This week I got confused when there were news that we didn't pay the money that we announced that we will pay during the launch of COVAX. You know, COVAX is a facility that has been launched or established by World Health Organization, where countries, member countries of WHO, put aside money so that we can be able to speed up the process of manufacturing of a vaccine. And the third thing is that I hope President Ramaphosa will take time to clarify this matter, because he is the co-chair of COVAX. And during the launch, he was at the forefront pushing and encouraging countries to donate to COVAX so that we can have this facility, this money, we can buy vaccine, and this vaccine can be distributed to all COVAX member countries, particularly the developing countries or the poorer nations. And we know the pharmaceutical companies and some foundations have made a commitment that they will buy and give a vaccine to poorer nations, but governments themselves must commit. And South Africa had made a commitment then that it will donate 500 million to this COVAX. And now there are reports that the Treasury didn't pay. The Minister of Finance, on the other hand, dismissing this. And then the reports again that now the Solidarity Fund, that is chaired by Gloria Serobe, is the one now putting aside money for us to participate in the COVAX facility. So it is not clear, and it is for that reason it is time for President Ramaphosa to avail himself to media on the continent so that we can talk to him, ask questions about his tenure as the chair of the African Union during this difficult time of COVID-19, and perhaps he will provide answers. But some rumors is that he's very angry that Treasury was not quick to put aside this money and pay. Others are saying it is not true. Therefore, we don't know. But it will be very critical for South Africa to lead by example, to put aside this money and be part of this COVID facility so that we can be able to access this vaccine. But take this further to Africa, where African countries can also commit to COVAX so that they can be able to access this vaccine. He did very well, the president, bringing together countries and establishing a facility on the continent where we were, procurement of PPE were done in bulk for the continent. So we must now use that infrastructure to be involved in the procurement of the vaccine. But it will be easier for us to understand and tell the continent and the nation where we are and what are the possibilities if the president is available to speak to us to clarify this matter, because we have failed to get the Minister of Finance to speak to us.
Right. Sophie, just as we wrap up, just give us the tick-tock of the next 2 days, the 13th and 14th extraordinary sessions today and tomorrow. What's on the agenda?
Tomorrow, a big one also, the focus will be on peace and security. You know that at some point in time, the African Union embarked on a campaign to silence the guns in 2020. It has been a very difficult campaign, but when you look at different countries, you see there's relative peace, even though the citizens are restless on the continent because of poverty and also the challenge of COVID-19, you know, the economy not doing well, but the continent has been able to address conflict. You know, take for an example the Great Lakes region. It was such a problem, but there's relative peace. But you still have to do a lot because you still have rebels operating in the Great Lakes region. And then, unfortunately, now you have a situation in Ethiopia, the internal conflict there, that is likely to spill over to neighboring countries, and it will affect the Horn of Africa and East Africa and the North Africa. Therefore, it is important to deal with that conflict. You also have a problem in the SADC region, the region that has been relatively peaceful. You have Mozambique now, and you have to address that. So tomorrow, the focus will be on peace and security on the continent, review the 2020 silencing of guns. Yeah. We are told that the president, as the chair of the African Union, will again call for the extension of this campaign to 2030, but ensure that every 2 years you review progress made so that you are able to address the challenges, so that in 2030 definitely we have a peaceful continent, prosperous, and in 2035, as the secretary has indicated, we have a continent that has been able to assist 55 million citizens to get out of poverty.
We no doubt will be keeping a close eye on these sessions, the successful adoption of the Johannesburg decision and the declaration of trading under the agreement, seen as an historic occasion for the AU and Africa, I guess, in general. And we're told, you know, it will usher in this new era of trade and economic development in the continent by increasing the pace of industrialization and boosting intra-Africa trade in order to provide and promote the sustainable development. Sophie Mokoena, as always, thank you very much indeed for your perspective. Be well.
Thank you. I will bring the viewers the closing ceremony later.
100%. Thank you very much indeed. Keep it locked on to SABC News.